I've been coming to Maximize Living for about 2 years, 2.5 years, something like that. And it's over the last year that I felt that I've had the most advances, but they probably started before that. A lot of the advances I've had are thanks to my wife, because she really pushed me into this program and pushes me along all the time. The biggest changes I've made are in the eating habits. I've changed it dramatically to the advanced plan. I've been on the advanced plan now for just about a year solid. I haven't lost very much weight, but you know, I've lost 5 inches off my waist in this 30-day period. I measured it this afternoon. I said, "Holy Christ!" It's really remarkable. But I've also lost some of the medications I was taking. I got off of prednisone and Cellcept, 100% off of it. I've gotten off of clopidogrel, I think it's called, but it's really Plavix. And lisinopril, I'm taking 1 instead of 2. It's actually 10 milligrams instead of 20 milligrams. And that's about to go away. But my doctor, if my results are good in the next blood test, I'm off of it. And it's really good. The exercise portion of the program has been really good, because when I started I couldn't even do 1 push-up really, and now I can do 2 push-ups. I can do a lot of the things. I can move around and fall through the surge every time I get out there, and that's good. I've also just recently gotten involved in the antitoxin stuff, and I really can't tell what's happening with that, but generally I feel better, and something's happening. And I haven't changed very much of what's in my household, the products that I use and things. That's something you brought up at the last session, so I'm going to start working on that and get rid of some of these things that I don't need. I stopped microwaving things, which is a good thing. And I'm really just generally very happy with what the progress is with this program.
Well, I appreciate it. Very good. So, Steve wasn't joking about the 1 push-up.
Yeah.
It was. I think our first surge was kind of just like moving the legs in place,
yeah,
right?
It was like
I think that was about it. That was actually the second surge.
That was the second
surge. But one of the things that's really important is, I think he minimizes the changes that he has made. And I think, isn't that kind of something that we all do? Like when we're doing something really well, we kind of minimize it, and then when we're doing something bad, we glorify it, right? We're so easier to break ourselves down rather than build ourselves up and congratulate ourselves for the things that we're doing. So I congratulate you, and that's why I wanted you to actually speak tonight, because I want you to have the opportunity to actually sit down and think about all the changes that you've made, and I think that they're huge. And in fact, that's what this dinner is about. It's about all the people that actually participated in the 2030 challenge that we had there. Who was in the challenge with us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And so some of us, like sometimes people came in and they didn't have any changes, but they realized that their pants fit differently. Like you lost 5 inches in your waist. That's pretty significant. Like when you're going from a 40 to a 35, right? I mean, that's major improvement there.
I've gone from 47 to 43.
Yeah, that 47 to 42, that's pretty fantastic. But we start looking at those small changes, and so over 2 years, you made some terrific changes. I brought up one of our last classes. I talked about a lady that it took her 2 years to lose 100 pounds. Right? Would it be worth it if you're 100 pounds overweight to spend the next 2 years losing those 100 pounds? It was a pound a week, but sometimes it was less than a pound a week, and she didn't even budge the scale, but she didn't give up. And so that's the celebration that tonight's about, is about us moving the needle forward in our lives and trying to master our lives. And one of the challenges that I see, and that's, my whole goal in being here tonight is really to not just to motivate you to do something, but to inspire you to see your life different. Inspire you to see what is different as far as possibility in your lives. And one of the things that's most important that we forget about is the people that are around us. And so we start looking at the people that are around us. 1 in 50 people that are actually, 1 in 50 children that are born are going to be autistic today. That's crazy. 1 out of 2 men, 2 out of 3 women, the people around us are going to have heart disease or cancer. You know, one out of two people is going to actually have heart disease. And actually, by the time you feel that heart disease, you know, half those people are actually going to die from their first heart attack. Those are crazy statistics. When we look at the United States having the most autoimmune diseases in the entire planet. When we start looking at now 1 out of 10 people in the United States is taking an antidepressant. We start looking at the average person that's 65 years old, they're taking 5 or more medications, and we went up from 10 years ago, we were at 70% of the medications in the world, now we're up to 80% of the medications in the world taken right here in the United States of America. And so when we start looking at those statistics, the reason why we're here right now, the reason why every single person is standing right there and brought you here is not because it was just about the free dinner, right? The dinner is just a blessing. That's an opportunity for us to come together. But many of you actually started in this room right here, not in this very one, but one similar to it. In fact, Jerry said he remembered the first time we did our very first dinner with the doc. It was in where was it? It was like
it was at a hotel over off of First Street in a very nondescript room that was way too, I don't know, it wasn't a good match. But
no, it wasn't. But the point is that, you know, like, the reason why I do these is because every single time that we do something like this, we have an opportunity to change a life. And I don't know if it's yours, I don't know if it's yours, I don't know if it's yours, I don't know whose it is, but that's my goal, that's my vision, that's my purpose in being around, doing what I do. That's the purpose of my team. It's all about changing lives. And so one of the biggest challenges is how do we get here, right? How do we get into this place? Like some days, have you ever just woken up and you look at your body and you look at your health and you're like, what the heck happened? Right? You're like, what happened? I know I could probably run, but that was 20 years ago. I know, when did all of a sudden I start taking these medications? When did all of a sudden I start being tired and fatigued? When did all this stuff happen? And just like for Dennis, it's been a slow process as he gets off his medications, as he loses his weight, as he moves in that direction. The other direction is that it's that one without effort. And in fact, one of the definitions of health that I heard recently that I thought was really profound was that health has nothing to do with anything except your participation. That's it. Like if you participate in your health, you're going to become healthy. If you don't participate in it, by default, your body's going to break down at an accelerated rate. That's it. If you don't breathe, guess what's going to happen? It's a conscious thing to breathe. Like if you don't eat, you're going to die an earlier death. But imagine if you actually consciously participated and actually ate food that was healthy for you. And so really what I wanted to start off with tonight is like does anybody here not want to be healthy? Just put up your hand if you don't want to be healthy. Good. I know, like, you can tell me later if you don't. But the thing is that the question is how do we know that we're healthy, right? Like, how do we know that we're healthy? Right, and so here's the thing, is that this is what most people tell me, like if you look good, right? Have you ever known somebody that looked really good and then all of a sudden they were diagnosed with cancer, right? Do you remember, she was in my locker in high school, darn it, Farrah Fawcett, right? Right? Didn't she look good? And she had all the greatest doctors in the world, but what happened to her? She got cancer, right? So it has nothing to do with how you look. Or how about nothing hurts? Right? There's a girl that right now, she actually is one of the sickest people that I know. She has the complete inability to feel pain. So she fell off a ladder. Neurologically, she has the inability to feel pain. She fell off a ladder, fell down, broke her leg, and got up and tried to walk on it because she couldn't feel it. She can't feel if water is hot when she's in the shower. Somebody has to tell her that it's hot. She can't feel pain there. Does that mean that she's healthy? No. Can you imagine if you couldn't feel if you were having a heart attack, then you couldn't change like what you were doing or actually address that issue? Or how about when you're not sick? Think about the last time that you were sick, okay? How did you feel the day before you got sick? Was there like a warning sign that said, hey, tomorrow you're going to be sick, so does that make sense? Like, we don't feel anything. By the time we're sick, by the time our immune system's weak, by the time our bodies are shutting down, it's already too late. Because haven't you ever had that little cold where you're like, all of a sudden everything's fine, and then the next moment it comes on? It wasn't that you caught that cold. In fact, you have to deserve a cold to catch it. You have to do something to suppress your immune system enough to be able to give your immune system an opportunity to be weak for you to actually be able to catch that virus. That'd be like, you would think that if that was the case, just be, if you base your health on, if you caught a cold, I would be the sickest person in the entire planet with the number of people that I come in contact with. And it's not that I get immunity with my diploma, I wish I did, but it's because I try to keep myself healthy and healthy people don't get sick. No symptoms. This is the absolute worst, right? Because how many people think if you were to wake up in the morning, roll over, and you felt no symptoms, how many people in the world do you think would actually think that they were healthy? Pretty much all of us, right? We wake up and we're like, oh, I don't feel bad today. My back doesn't hurt. My toes don't hurt. My neck doesn't feel stiff. I have no headache. I'm pretty healthy. This is a good day. But I always talk about, and one of my biggest motivators in doing what I do was I was running with my dad in a marathon, and then I ended up burying him 6 weeks later. And because he based his health on how he felt, this is a man that never smoked, never drank, never did anything like that, but he ended up being diagnosed with cancer. And because I couldn't do anything about it, because it was too late, because he based his health on how he felt, by the time we actually felt it, it was too late. So I had to go back to school and actually relearn what it took for people to be healthy, what it took for another man never have to suffer watching his dad die at 56 years old, never meeting his children or his grandchildren there. When we start, the question then is health how you feel? Is it when nothing hurts? When you're not sick, no symptoms, all the above, or none of the above? Okay, I'm their teacher now, so you guys actually get extra credit if you get the right answer. You'll get
None of the above.
None of the above, good. All right, so here's the thing. If we're insulin dependent, right? And so when we're talking about symptoms, if we're insulin dependent, we start taking insulin, does that mean that, and our blood sugar is balanced out, does that mean we're actually healthy? No, it just means that we're less sick. Does that make sense? Or that we talk about the first sign of a heart attack. The first sign of a heart attack, when we're basing our health on how we feel, in a majority of people, is actually a heart attack itself. So what happens with heart disease? Does that work for us if we're waiting for, to feel heart pain, to make sure that we're healthy? No. How about when we feel fine the next day, our immune system's suppressed? And one of the craziest things is, when we talk about no symptoms, we look at something like a mammogram, right? By the time you actually see something on a mammogram, it means that you already have cancer. It's already there. It's already too late there. And so cancer, like all these other diseases, by the time you feel them, it's too late. And so what ends up happening is that we got to stop looking at how we feel. We got to start, and I think the biggest challenge is that we've become a society that bases our lives on how we feel. We do things because it makes us feel good, not as the right thing to do. Does that make sense? That's where we've lost our ability to control ourselves because we feel like looking at Facebook all day long rather than talking to our families and interacting with people. We do things based on how we feel, and so sometimes it's just too hard to do the right thing. And one of the challenges that comes in is we have to understand that instead of looking at the function of our individual organs and tissues in our body, we got to look to see how these organs and tissues function. And so a great example is there was an article that came out with a doctor by the name of Dr. Thomas Cowan. Has anybody ever heard that you can have a heart attack when you actually have a blocked artery? Right? Hopefully all of you have heard that, right? So Dr. Thomas Cowan, he actually did the research on it, and what he found in most cases, when somebody has a blocked artery, 80 and 90% blocked arteries, that what ended up happening is because this was a process. It didn't all of a sudden get blocked overnight. It took years and years and years for that artery to become blocked. Your body is extremely intelligent. It's extremely intelligent, and what it does is it creates what we call collateral circulation. It actually will grow additional arteries to be able to feed that heart, because if your heart was only getting 10% of its blood flow, you would actually be dead. And so what he found was that it wasn't the blocked arteries, because you have an innate intelligence that actually takes care of you day in and day out. It doesn't. You don't have to think to breathe. If you cut yourself, it doesn't have to be there. You don't have to think about it healing. That's what it does. What Dr. Cowan found was this: is that there was something else causing heart attacks. And so when we look at what we call what he looked at is he looked at the nervous system. And what he found, this was actually profound, he found that it wasn't the blockage, but it was an imbalance in that person's nervous system that caused a spasm of the blood vessels that actually, when they had an acute stress of some type, that would actually cause that heart attack. It wasn't a blockage or a plumbing problem, it was a neurologic problem there. And the reason why this is important is, I want you to look at this, is that your brain controls the function of your entire body. Okay? Your brain controls the function of your entire body. It sends messages down your spinal cord, out the nerves, to every single tissue, cell, and organ. So much of the time we're looking at a problem with an organ, right? We have liver failure, we have heart failure, we have lung failure. But I need to tell you, and I need you to understand this, it is not the fruit, but it's the root. Does that make sense? It's not the fruit, it's the root. If this was a tree, right, and we had a problem with the tree, we wouldn't say that we have an apple problem, we have a problem with the tree. So your brain controls the function. So here's the deal. If we're talking about that heart, and I cut the nerve that goes to your heart, what's going to happen to that heart? Does anybody, literally, if I cut that nerve that goes to your heart, does anybody disagree that it's going to stop? Okay, why would it stop? Because there's an interference between the communication between your brain and your heart. Your brain controls the function of your heart. So when we have a subluxation, and a subluxation is when you have a twisting or a shifting of the spine, right? Normally your spine is going to be bigger than this. We have a couple people, we call them spineless, but they just, I don't know where this came from, but from the front your spine's got to be completely straight, and from the side you have to have 3 nice smooth curves. That's the way God intended it. That's the way He created it, so that that nervous system would be protected. In fact, it's the only system in your entire body that doesn't have, actually has a bone to protect it. It's actually that important, that vital. So when your spine's like that, your brain is able to communicate with the rest of your body. Your body's able to function at 100%. What is your health potential? That's 100%, right? So the challenge is this: when we cut that nerve, your health potential goes down. What if we had a twisting or a shifting of that spine, putting pressure on those delicate nerves right there, interfering, just a little bit of pressure? What if I just took just a little bit of pressure and put that pressure right there on that nerve? How would that heart then function?
Not very well.
Not very well. Are you sure about that, Vanessa?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I ask her that question all the time. You can tell, because it's common sense, right? And so if it's not going to function very well, so let's say I leave that pressure there for, I don't know, a month. Is that heart going to function better or worse after that month? It's going to function worse. And what if you don't feel that pressure on the nerve? Because only 5% of your nervous system is actually pain sensitive. So if you don't feel it and you have pressure on that nerve and it's affecting the function, and then you don't do anything about it and you leave it there for another year, is it going to get better or worse? Worse. And then 5 years from now, is it going to be better or worse? Right. And so then eventually, if you leave it there long enough and it gets worse enough, what eventually happens to that heart? It breaks down. And when that heart breaks down, what happens to you?
You die.
You die. Exactly. And so that's the process. That's the process that maintains life in existence. Because when our life stops, we're brain dead. We're not heart dead. When our brain stops, our heart can't help itself. It can't regenerate itself. And that's why when we look at heart health, the first thing that I always look at is, I don't care about your blood pressure, because your blood pressure is controlled by your nervous system. I don't care about you having a heart attack, because the studies are coming out now that we've been wrong. And the thing is that we think that, oh, we've been so right. Well, all the studies that came out on fats, right? They just came out in the newspaper and said, oh, well, we've been wrong for the last 50 years. It came out with cholesterol. Oh, we've been wrong for the last 50 years. All the things that we thought were truths were actually opinions. All right? And so there's a difference between understanding a truth and an opinion. A truth is this, is that God put the most amazing healing power in your body and your brain. That's it. And it controls, this is where life is. This is literally a river of life coming down your spinal cord, out the nerves, giving life to every single part of your entire body. Anytime there's an interference, you're going to have less life in that area. Yes, Jerry?
So, Doc, you know what my last 3 weeks have been.
Right.
So I don't want to take a lot of time, but everything he's saying is absolutely correct. And I've seen it. I've seen it 3 times. People who have died in my arms because they just are ready to go. And it is the most amazing and beautiful thing, because what you're seeing is God's embrace. And I think what we need to recognize is how beautiful the body is. But at 91, my mom wanted to go. She started telling all my best friends 4 weeks in advance. And my toughest conversation was to let you know, because she was healthy as a horse and was on a trajectory to be here for 100 years. But she wanted to go at 91 because she wanted to do it under her terms. And when you see that, that's the most amazing thing, because the body is the most amazing machine we get to see.
Well, and that's the brilliance about what you just said, is because she had a choice, right?
Yeah.
She had a choice. She'd only been under care for about 60 years, too.
Yeah.
But she had a choice. She was out exercising, and that was her choice. And so, really, I just need you to understand that the difference is really black and white, and that's what it comes down to. We can spend all of our life trying to treat your symptoms. We can spend all of our life trying to patch things up. We can spend all of our life trying to make somebody feel better, right? But unless we remove the interference to the literally life coursing through your body, you won't have less life. So really, I need you to understand this, and I want you to repeat after me. The lack of essential nutrients, when I don't let you eat tonight, what are you going to be? Starving, right? That's called starvation when you don't eat, right? It's because you have an essential thing that you need, you don't get it, it's called starvation. And what happens to you when you starve? You die. The longer that you're starving, the more likely that you are going to be dying. How about water, right? Lack of water is called dehydration. So we have starvation and dehydration. When you have those lack of essential things, how about if I don't let you breathe? We call that, right? Okay, and so lack of proper nerve function is called subluxation. Okay? It's the only difference between subluxation, suffocation, dehydration, and starvation is time. That's the only difference. Its only difference is time. And the reason being is that your body was so perfectly constructed, so perfectly designed, that your body will be able to, will try to do everything that it possibly can to help give you a chance to be able to change your lifestyle, to change the things that you're doing so that you can actually have an opportunity to heal. Unfortunately, most of us don't change what we're doing. And so I want to introduce you to a lady that came in about 4 years ago. She came in 4 years ago. Her sister referred her in. We sat down with her. She had incredible low back pain. And it had been slowly going on, and then she just thought taking morphine and oxycodone for it was the solution to her problems. Does that sound like a good treatment plan for you? Because it's a structural problem, so why would you ever use a chemical solution to fix a structural problem? That makes no sense whatsoever. It's like putting dirt in your gas tank. It doesn't make any sense. And so we sat down with her and I said, look, you're 25 years old. You have some choices to make in your life right now. You have high blood pressure, you're diabetic, you have chronic pain. What do you want to do? And she said, I want to change my life. And so we sat down and we made a plan out for her and we started working. And the first thing that she did was, we talked about giving up. What's my favorite white powder I say to give up? Sugar. Right, so the first thing she did is she brought in her backpack. And in her backpack was over 45 pounds of candy that she would buy every single week. Her 2 children had their own backpacks that they would go buy. She started working, and it started getting hard. She started having a hard time participating, right? She started having a hard time showing up. The things were just too hard. 4 years later, 3 days ago, she died. 29 years old, heart attack. So I want to go back to this picture right here. How hard is it going to be for those kids? How hard is it going to be for those kids because she didn't want to participate and take personal responsibility for her health care? How hard is it now going to be for her husband because she didn't take personal responsibility because it was just too hard? All of us have family. All of us have friends out there. All of us have people that we love and we care about. When she's gone, it doesn't bother her. It's about the people that we leave behind, and we need to stop being so selfish and thinking about it's all about me every single time I pick up that Twinkie, right? We think it's all about me when I'm not exercising. We need to take personal responsibility for the people that are around us. And I don't want to be preachy here, but I do want to be preachy because here's the thing. Do you know how many times I've seen this? And it rips my heart out every single time. It rips my heart out every single time. And the thing is that every single one of us have the choice to be like your mom, 91 years old. Studies show right now, in the United States, we're 39th in the world as far as general health and well-being of our population. They expect within the next 20 years we're going to be 75th as far as general health and well-being. So you can go by the plan, what's normal, right? You can go by the plan that as everybody else is doing what they're doing, or you can choose a different plan. You can go by plan A and you can end up where everybody else is, or you can go by plan B. If you're on plan B, people are going to think you're a little bit weird, but you're going to live a long time as a weird person. Okay? And that's what we want. I would rather be abnormal and actually be abnormal because I live long, healthy, happy life with connected relationships, rather than be normal on antidepressants and medications all throughout the rest of my life, spending all of my income in the last 10 years trying to keep myself alive. And so here's the question that I ask you guys. When was the last time that you had a picture of your spine? Because the question is this, is that your spine is there for one reason and one reason only, and that's to protect your nervous system. So when was the last time that you had a picture of your spine to know whether you had an interference to this life flowing through your body? Would it be important to you to know if there was an interference between your brain healing, repairing, and regenerating every single tissue, cell, and organ in your whole body? That's the question. How about your children? Like, how important would it be for you to know if your child was subluxated? Would you care if she was starving? Would you care if your daughter was dehydrated? Would you care if your child was suffocating? What's the difference between that and her actually being subluxated? The only difference is time. And so that's why we're here tonight. Not because none of us had anything else to do, but because every single person that's here cared about somebody else. And what I want you to understand is this is a mission that we're on. Every single one of us that work in this office, and the other 436 maximized living offices across the country, the other 500,000 patients right now that are actively under chiropractic care. This is a mission that we're on to change the way that people perceive and receive their health care. And the only single reason why we do that is to save millions of lives in the process. That's it. There is no other reason. I don't know what you need to do with your life, but I do know that if we're healthy, we can do anything that we're put here on this planet to do. And so our vision, though, is we want to change the sick care model. We want to change this model, and it's happening one little bit at a time. But each person that's here is a maximizer. Each person that's here plays a role. And so what I ask you to do, number one, is keep telling the story. Keep telling people that it doesn't have to be like this. Keep telling people that there's more to their body, and keep telling people that they're fearfully and wonderfully and powerfully made. And remind them of that every single day. The other thing that I ask you to do, look, if you haven't had your spine checked, get your spine checked. If you've had an X-ray on your child's teeth to see if they have cavities, and you've never had an X-ray on your child's spine, now you know. You have a choice. And so I appreciate you guys for being here, and I hope that I'm going to be circulating around if you have any more questions. But what I ask you to do is this: is just participate in your healthcare. Take responsibility for your healthcare. Take responsibility for your health in your life. And for that, I appreciate you and applaud you for being here, because this is the first step. Thank you.